All right. Well, the hot tub curmudgeon is giving voice once again, and I am actually in the hot tub with a sweater because I can't get down in with my sternal wound, sternotomy wound. And if you can credit it, here it is, the middle of August, and it's cold. There's a chilly breeze. And I don't know if you can see it in the background there, but there's fog moving in over the lake. Now we got a little bit of smoke from British Columbia, but this is fog and it's chilly. Okay, one more thing about the Gays and Mormons weekends. There was a weekend where, well, first off, I was trying to persuade a fellow Mormon who was Chinese to come, and so I was asking him. I remember sitting in the chapel once next to him, and I asked, so what do they do in China with gay folk? And he gets this beatific smile and says, we kill them. Jesus. Well, anyway, I invited him to come to this weekend. So now there was a lesbian who was just the sweetest lady, and she and I had taken on one of the previous weekends, taken a walk in the moonlight, and she just was this lovely woman. And she brings her most recent squeeze, who was just the most butch, obnoxious character. And the peculiar thing is that she and I, this butch lady and I, had so much in common. We had both done almost all of the Werner Erhard and Associates stuff. Maybe she'd done Est. I hadn't been that early in it. And I think she'd done 6 Day. And anyway, we really had a lot of common experiences. But I did not like this woman. So we get together, and things are going along on Friday night when folks are still sort of in a speak politely, then maybe start into a little bit of argumentative and fixing each other phase. And so this Chinese friend of mine, he just gets this sweet smile on his face and tells us that he just loves all of us. And this butch gal says, David, you are so full of shit. And then she proceeds to tear him open from anus to antlers, and I looked at her. Oh, and he begins to cry in a way that opens him up as very sincere. I mean, he became lovable in that moment. I think we all loved him when she was done tearing him open, telling him how he was full of shit. And I looked at this woman and I thought, that's why God wanted her here. And that has changed me. Many times I'll be in some situation with a really off-putting, obnoxious person, and I'll wait and remind myself there's some reason God wants that person here. Okay, so this Chinese guy and his wife taught me something that I've thought a lot about. The wife had been a member of a very rich family when the Chinese took over, and so they tortured and tormented her grandfather and made the whole family live in a pigsty. So then this gal and her older brother, when they were teenagers, the older brother said, let's head out for Hong Kong. And she said, well, how will we live? And he said, we are Chan. And if we need to beg, then others will beg for us. We will be kings of the beggars. So there was something about his vision of who Chan was that gave him this confidence that they would succeed. And so by the time that I knew her, their house was on the front cover of a booklet that invited folks to Kennewick, Washington. Their house was on the Street of Dreams, and I mean, her brother's prediction had come true. They had made it. They drove fancy European automobiles. Her husband was the most financially successful doctor in the community, and all their kids had gone on LDS missions and were going to college. So I got really interested in this sort of family conversation that told them who they were, and in a sense pulled them into this vision of what Chan was. And I think the Kennedys had the same sort of multi-generational conversation, that it was both their duty and their due to be rulers of the American public. So one day I'm sitting at the courthouse with this young black man who's a lawyer, and we were buddies and we're visiting, and so I asked him about his family, and he said that his grandparents had been sharecroppers in Oklahoma, had 8 children, and that they had really drilled it into those kids to get an education. All 8 of them had gone to college, and I think half or more had gotten master's degrees. And now he was a grandson, and he was a lawyer there in the Tri-Cities. And I said, well, yeah, so what about that 3rd generation? And he said, I'm it. No more. So there was something about the Chan and Kennedy family conversations that has persisted over generations, where this sharecropper family conversation petered out. And I'm worried that my family conversation is the same as the sharecroppers, and that is that you got to make it. You got to go to college in order to make it. Well, so that may work for one generation. The kid will go to college and he'll make it, and he's driving fancy European automobiles and living in a big, beautiful house. But then his kids, they've made it. They've got their Xboxes and their cell phones and their own fancy cars. And so what's this crap about they got to do X in order to make it? We have made it. And so that conversation, you got to make it, peters out. It's got to be something more like the Chan and the Kennedys.